Welcome to The Know, I'm Mica.
I'm Gus.
Super Mario Odyssey, the latest highly anticipated Switch exclusive and the first mainline Mario game to come to the new console, officially releases on Friday, and Mario fans everywhere, including me, are excited for a new free-roaming 3D adventure.
And now that the review embargo is finally lifted, we can ask the question, is it good?
Well, the answer to that question appears to be a big-time, all-resounding yes, with many critics giving it perfect scores. It appears that Super Mario Odyssey could be joining another Switch exclusive, Zelda Breath of the Wild, in contention for Game of the Year honors. Nintendo's just like gobbling up those Game of the Years.
Yeah, it's crazy. Mario Odyssey currently sits at a 97 on Metacritic, which is the same score Breath of the Wild got, and a 98 on OpenCritic. And judging by those scores, it's fair to say that the game is already in all-time great territory. One reviewer even gave it 6 stars out of 5, simply saying it's that good. Wow.
That's impressive.
Wow.
The consensus from critics is that Super Mario Odyssey manages to keep the appeal of the legendary platforming series with brilliant refined level design and tight controls while also introducing a number of bold new ideas. Reviewers praised the ease at which you are able to control Mario and the fun they had in exploring a variety of worlds to find power moons and hidden goodies.
GameSpot, in its 10 out of 10 review, called the game a shining example of refined creativity and another crown jewel for the Switch that is without equal.
Damn.
Wow.
GamesRadar gave it a 5 out of 5 stars and wrote, "This is the Mario of the future without losing any of its history. The little Nintendo mascot can still do all the traditional stuff, leaps, jumps, ground pounds, and all the rest, but by giving them the power of capture, suddenly Mario proves he can learn new tricks after all these years."
Okay, so let's dive into the reviews. More than one writer mentioned the game's similarities with Super Mario 64, which many consider to be the best Mario game ever made.
Yeah.
Maybe, I have to
Debatable.
think about it. Like in Mario 64 and a lot of 3D Mario games, you're collecting a main item, in this case power moons instead of stars, in a variety of worlds to keep progressing and ultimately save Princess Peach from Bowser. Super Mario World.
Yeah.
Of course, to get these power moons, you'll have to complete puzzles, platforming sections, timed runs, and more. There are also throwback 2D sections that take you back to OG Super Mario Bros. Graphics of the 1980s.
That's adorable. As for the worlds themselves, they're divided into more than 10 different kingdoms, from New Donk City with realistic humans to the more traditional terrain that we're used to in a Mario game. And of course, each kingdom has a big memorable boss to fight at the end.
And those kingdoms are apparently really dense with things to do. Ars Technica noted that the worlds feel like lived-in places rather than empty ruins. Its reviewer wrote, "While quite a few of the motifs are pretty cliche at this point, the Ice Kingdom, the Wooded Kingdom, the Desert Kingdom, others shine with inventive ideas like the cooking-themed Luncheon Kingdom or the Metro Kingdom's lively and bustling New Donk City."
I still love New Donk City. It just sounds so ridiculous.
Redonkulous.
There you go. But there are also a number of cases where Super Mario Odyssey breaks from the convention of the previous games. For one, dying in the game is now completely different. You don't lose a life anymore because the concept of lives doesn't actually exist, you'll just lose coins. And there aren't the traditional items or power-up suits that you might be familiar with from previous games.
Which brings us to the biggest change, your hat. In Mario Odyssey, you'll be able to throw your cap, which has been possessed by a spirit named Cappy, to temporarily catch enemies and objects and use their powers. You can also use your hat as a projectile weapon to attack enemies, and it even serves as a temporary platform to jump from.
The ability to capture different enemies or objects drastically changes the gameplay of Mario Odyssey compared to, previous series entries. You can do a lot more things now move-wise. As GamesRadar noticed, taking control of traditional Mario enemies is easy enough. You know how a Bullet Bill, Goomba, or Cheep Cheep works. But then you add in all the new enemies and Mario's moveset massively multiplies. From the accordion-like tropical wigglers and flying lizards known as Glidons, to onion-esque uproots with growing legs and a T-Rex. There are plenty of unknowns to explore and take control of.
Kotaku noted that your cap now functions as a cross between a frisbee and a boomerang riding. In a game already full of varied gameplay styles, capturing switches things up even more. Odyssey is a playground of action game types, an endless buffet. It doesn't allow you to get too reliant on any one set of moves, as another one is often available nearby.
Lots of reviewers noted that the controls for handling Mario were responsive and precise, and you've got your usual arsenal of flips, jumps, and stomps. But again, your hat changes everything. Glixel wrote, "3D platforming revolving around precise jumps is a tough nut to crack, and Odyssey smartly sidesteps much of that burden through the possession mechanic. Most levels are at least partly built around the enemies you can possess."
Since this is a Nintendo game, we need to talk about motion controls. And one drawback, albeit a small one, is that some minor moves require shaking the controller to pull off, like if you want to do a high jump after you've possessed a Goomba or a frog.
Kotaku noted that split Joy-Cons is how the game explicitly encourages you to play. This gives you more fine-tuned control over how Mario tosses Cappy and makes motion control moves easier to pull off in general. Of course, if you're like me and your Joy-Con desyncs all the time, this may be impossible.
I ended up having to buy new Joy-Cons because my left Joy-Con desynced so much.
Really?
Like in most Mario games, there's a lot of stuff to collect. Obviously, the power moons are the main items because they power your hat-shaped ship, the Odyssey, which allows you to travel to different worlds. But there are also purple coins that are specific to each kingdom, along with regular gold coins that you can spend at the Crazy Cap store to get new outfits. You'll eventually fill the inside of your ship with stickers and items from your travels, but it's the variety of outfits that really stood out to many reviewers.
I love collecting things. I'm a sucker for that in games. I don't know why. As Giant Bomb noted in its 5-star review, Mario's unlockable outfits feature many great callbacks to his prolific past. From the obscure safari suit from Japan-only Picross 2 to the recent, the Builder outfit from Super Mario Maker. It's all here.
Of course, since this is a Mario game, there are tons of hidden coins, power moons, and Easter eggs to discover. Ars Technica wrote, secret areas that might have hidden a power-up or cache of coins in another Mario game are much more likely to hide one of the game's hundreds of power moons in Odyssey. These secret locales therefore reward players with a much more concrete and countable bounty for your aimless exploration.
There also appears to be a lot of nostalgic fan service stuffed into the game too, which is never a bad thing. Games Radar wrote, the game is crammed with Easter eggs and nods to Mario's past that regularly had me giggling in glee. I spent far too much time in a cinema in Metro Kingdom doing secret things and playing fetch with a Nintendog who seems to be in every kingdom if you want to find him. Oh my god!
As for the length of the game, reviewers noted that the main quests seem to last around 12 to 15 hours, and it requires you to obtain about 20% of the 800 plus power moons in the game.
800! Holy crap! But there's plenty to do post-game once you've seen the credits. Giant Bomb's reviewer wrote, I beat the game in less than 15 hours, but spent dozens more collecting hundreds upon hundreds of additional moons until I had them all. This doesn't feel like busy work or mindless completionism, as you're often presented with new challenges, costumes, and surprising turns as your number climbs.
As for reviewers' complaints about the game, they mostly centered around the graphical issues and some annoyance with having to use motion controls to pull off minor moves.
Ars Technica noted that the underpowered Switch hardware occasionally gets in the way of the game's believable visual world. It noted some frame rate drops when the Switch is docked, as well as objects sometimes popping in and out of existence.
GBA Temp gave Mario Odyssey a relatively low score, an 8 out of 10, saying that while the stages look great, some feel as if they have sloppy design, and some worlds feel barren and overly large for the sake of being expansive.
Still, it liked the game overall and said, this might not be the best Mario game ever, but it's definitely accomplished what it set out to do, which is to create a fun new adventure revolving around many new power-ups and abilities.
And if that's a bad review, that speaks wonders for the game.
Right.
But still, the vast consensus was that Super Mario Odyssey is another masterpiece of platforming that stays true to the series' roots while introducing a lot of fun new concept.
Glixo called Super Mario Odyssey a beautiful, rewarding example of what the Nintendo has in store for the Switch.
And Giant Bomb said that Super Mario Odyssey is everything I wanted out of a new Mario game. It's bigger and better than any 3D entry in the series. Even with nearly 1,000 tasks, I always felt like the game was throwing unique and fun challenges at me.
So that about wraps up the reviews for Super Mario Odyssey. Are you planning on picking it up? Let us know in the comments.
And for all of your Mario Odyssey news, be sure to like this video. And if you're new around here, subscribe to the know.
And of course, each kingdom has a big memorable boss fight too. For one, dying in the game.
Change your hat. In Mario Odyssey, you're able to throw your cap, which has been possessed by a spirit named Cappy, to temporarily catch enemies and objects. Yeah. Throw your cap, which has